Is it wrong to tell people what is and isn't yoga? When it comes to form and especially safety, you as an instructor absolutely need to be speaking out to correct people. I feel like that's your primary purpose as a yoga instructor. As long as you give a reminder before the class starts that you may, from time to time, pause to correct someone's form or posture and that not to worry. It's for your safety and further enjoyment of yoga. You should be fine. If a student complains about being shamed, you can briefly remind them of this as well as point out that you are an experienced instructor who knows what they are doing, and that improper form absolutely can hurt them. Trust in the instructor is very important, especially when first learning yoga. Ensure you're building that trust in your students every day through your kind and consistent practice of yoga. Informing them of why they are wrong can help teach them too. But some people can be difficult. Don't let the bad ones get to you too much. As far as goats and wine and whether that type of stuff should even be called yoga, well, that becomes more personal and subjective. Clearly someone passionate about yoga and so dedicated to its practice as you are will have their own opinions about it. As a musician, I too have my own opinions about lots of forms of music and how people should treat or approach it. I'd say that if it's out of your control, why bother dwelling on it? You can, of course, share your opinions with others when asked. But things don't need to go much farther than that. Not wrong, but I could see how someone would be rubbed the wrong way if they were being told they're wrong about something like this. It's kind of like saying, OMG, you spelled it there, not there. You're technically right, but probably not actually teaching the person anything because they're going to feel attacked more than anything else. That being said, you're absolutely entirely right to run your own studio the way you want to. Just how you present that, communicate that idea to people might require a little more tact. FYI, I believe in Hinduism. It depends on what do you call yoga. From a religious angle, what most Westerners practice has nothing to do with yoga in Hinduism. From an exercise perspective, for example, the yoga in the West is derived from asanas without the religious meaning attached. Similar thing with karma. As an instructor, it is your duty to ensure that your students are practicing yoga in a safe manner. When it comes to what you may consider yoga, you are free to express your opinion. And they are free to agree, deny or debate. For example, when I see the idol of Ganesha in a chakra store, it reeks to me of Orientalism. I have seen more chakra stores in Canada than India. However, if that's the way people find their spirituality, then that's their choice. I don't know anything about yoga. Two very different things. As for the wine yoga, I'm sure that will bother a lot of people, but that's marketing. So all you can do is educate people. Ignorant people like me can tell the goat and wine yoga are gimmicks and can be valid as a fun activity. As for safety, hell no. Students should sign some agreement that they'll follow instructors' indications when it comes to safety, and you should be able to kick out people that don't follow the rules. This is like going climbing and some guy saying his wrong way of doing his harness is valid. That guy gets kicked out. Perhaps specify when you begin your classes that you'll be focusing on the more traditional form of yoga as opposed to modern forms of yoga, which may be different to what people are used to. I would also add a disclaimer to say that if you see someone doing something that could cause injury, you have a responsibility to safeguard people, and you will be doing that. Simple health and safety. Explain that yoga has evolved a lot over the years, but you will be sticking to the ancient practice. I would feel the same as you tbh. When you respect something as much as you do, not to mention something so cultured and spiritual, seeing it be reduced to something people do for Insta likes must be absolutely infuriating. Obviously not everyone does this. There are obviously a lot of people in the middle ground who enjoy the practice but perhaps don't know its roots, which is okay. Oof. That's frustrating. My modest opinion would be to stick to your guns and stick up for your ideas. Even if it's just disagreeing in your head. People tend to get angry at any idea that isn't like theirs, no matter what the topic. So it's not a you problem. If you want to discuss it out loud, great. If you want to avoid their huffy attitudes, that's good too. Remember that you're not alone in feeling this way. Fitness culture has definitely bastardized yoga as a physical and spiritual practice. When a situation like that comes up, I try to put my idea out, then give others the option to want to find out more. That way they can accept or decline it, and I still made a small point that asserts what I believe. X. There's more to yoga than that. And I can tell you if you want to know. Good luck. Some people will not want to learn. So move on to the ones who do. Because you have something good to share. IG and other platforms are testing many people who are passionate about a lot of different hobbies, activities and even cultural practices, because there are actual people who just do it for the attention. Sneakerheads have people who use fake backdrops with shoe collections printed on them. The fitness community has people doing dangerous workout stunts. Fishing YT people are always doing stupid challenges for views. The ladies have their questionable ways to grab attention too. Not every new idea and trend is good. People should learn to accept that and take constructive criticism that is presented respectfully. Unfortunately, the reactions I've seen toward people who are respectful while trying to be helpful are incredibly negative, because nobody asked them and they're just hateful gatekeepers who don't want to see their activity grow. Yuck. You are a teacher, so you already know that when you make a stand, people are going to fight it. Disengage. There are phrases that help de-escalate these types of situations IRL. They don't work so well online. I am sorry you feel that way. We are doing yoga here. There are other places that do that. Here we. I am sure you can find another class that does that. Here we. Good luck. And stand by your values and your beliefs. They will keep you grounded in the end. As with literally all ancient practices based on faith, there are schools of thought, approaches, and perspective. I think the correct thing is to let people practice in their own way and try to civilly explain nuances you know. Do not try to convince them. Just declare yours. Imagine telling a Jehovah's Witness about how much more accurate Protestantism is. How do you think that will go? You could tell him a cute fact about an old pope, or something minor. As far as I'm aware, yoga doesn't have a core, central, eternal and universal book. But that barely matters for Christian cults. And if people aren't hurting anyone, it's probably best to just leave it alone. I think it depends on how you put it. I, for example, do a bit of yoga as a hobby. But I do it mostly to get more flexible and stuff like that. I don't particularly subscribe to the more spiritual parts of it. And if I posted a photo of me doing a pose and someone came in my comments being rude and telling me I'm not allowed, I'd be a bit annoyed. Now I obviously don't know enough to be able to tell at which point you're allowed to call what you do yoga, and according to whom. Every gym I went to had at least 5 different types. And I've seen people call different types of stretches and exercises yoga, both in Western countries and in Southern Asia. However, I do think you're in the right when it comes to safety. I've had yoga teachers correct me on many things I was doing wrong because I learned stuff like handstands and back bends from gymnastics. And the techniques are different. So I listened and adapted. If you're teaching a class, it's normal for you to expect your students to conform to your safety norms, especially when it comes to stuff that can cause severe damage to their body. I can completely understand your frustration. 100% I can sympathize with people not understanding accurate terms and definitions of something you are very passionate about. May I suggest, instead of focusing on what isn't a true yoga, shift to educating people about what is. You could frequently teach what style and origin you specialize in. Then if you have a health and safety concern, you can use their offshoot style as an example of modern yoga style stretches or some other euphemism. So with gradual repetition people learn the difference. So for example, today we are practicing Bob Yoga. It is the style of city in country from 1066. I have a concern about Instagram yoga, which is a modern yoga style stretching technique. The position standing human can be bad for your legs. Obviously I don't know anything about yoga. I was trying to not be offensive in any way because I don't know the correct terminology. I am about to be certified as a yoga instructor, and we actually specifically talked about situations like this in class. Understanding that there are multiple paths to enlightenment, if you're thinking about it traditionally, means that however people want to practice yoga is valid. Goats, wine, nude, etc. Just because it's not how you do it, doesn't mean it's any less valid. That being said, when you are leading a class, it is your job to make sure that your students are practicing in a safe and effective manner. If you see a student doing a pose, whether correctly or incorrectly, and you don't approve of it for your class, then it is completely your responsibility to either correct them or, if they refuse, eject them from class. If someone does a pose incorrectly and gets injured, that could fall on you. That could legitimately become a lawsuit if they claim that you told them to do that pose. If you tell them not to do a pose, but they do it anyways and get injured, and you didn't enforce that they stop, it could as well become a lawsuit where you didn't enforce the safety of your class. Always remember, you are the leader, instructor in the class. They came to class with the expectation that they follow your lead and guidance. If they are incapable physically of doing something, that's one thing. Just give them an alternative pose. But if they just choose to ignore you, then they aren't interested in yoga. They're interested in showing off. Yoga has expanded in what it encompasses over the years, but from what I understand you're talking about traditional yoga, if that's a thing. I was just thinking of a parallel with the martial arts. If anyone comes to you to learn, say, karate, of course you will tell them what is an isn't karate. I can't just kick however I like and be like, no sir, this is what I consider karate. Should be the same with yoga IG. If you are gonna practice yoga as a form of exercise, then there is definitely a right way and a wrong way of doing it. It's not an opinion that your student can say that whatever she does is valid. That's really stupid. Please don't take that kind of liability and ask her to leave. I agree, stuff like goat yoga or wine yoga or even yoga while playing upbeat music is not true yoga to me. It's just kind of a novelty, but I feel it makes yoga lose its original intent and message. Those types of classes, might as well call it stretching with goats. Stretching class with wine or something. There's even one I saw that involves screaming yoga. I used to be involved in marketing for a yoga and Pilates studio, and we took the approach of giving classes the correct, traditional name, e.g. Hatha Yoga, Scaravelli Yoga, to differentiate between the type of exercise it would be. We also used social media to educate people on the background and history of yoga and to give advice on correct posture, etc. We were always happy to explain in more detail what each kind of yoga was so people could make the right choice for them. But we didn't go in for any of these modern hybrid forms. Apart from bar Pilates, I feel like labeling something vaguely related as yoga is an easy marketing shorthand so people will know kind of what to expect. I can't think what other term would take its place because stretches just doesn't give across the same vibe or attract the same clientele. On the other hand, it could be seen as cultural appropriation to name these modern classes yoga when they don't fit the same criteria. And I can understand why people would be offended by that. I would say that instructing people on the correct technique is just common sense and shouldn't even be an issue. You could be held responsible if somebody gets injured in your class. After all, most people who practice yoga do not know what the word yoga means. It bothers me as well. Yet it gives me an opportunity to practice patience and compassion. Eventually we are all slaves to the chemical composition of our brains. Some of us want to investigate and liberate ourselves from this. Most want to look cool and beautiful, get likes and attention. Good luck with this ordeal. I'm sorry. I'm very confused. Who TF is going to a yoga class run by a trained yoga teacher and arguing about whether they're in the right position or not? My friend and teacher would not be accepting dangerous practices, personal choice or not, in her class. I'm very sorry you've been made to feel like you even need to question this elsewhere than on a yoga sub. And I appreciate your willingness to accommodate some feelings, but I am thoroughly gobsmacked on your behalf. Bring on the hate. If you ask 100 practitioners or opinion holders of yoga what yoga is, you'll probably get 183 answers, ranging from a religious practice to fancy stretching to something satanic. That said, you can have an opinion of what yoga is, just like anyone else can. You're certainly allowed to express your opinion. But unless you are some sort of top-level yogi master, you aren't the end-all definer of what yoga is. And certainly within your classes, you get to rule the roost on what yoga is. If I come in juggling running chainsaws and claim it's yoga, you certainly can kick me out. It's kind like Yoko Ono. Is she a musician? Or is she a performance artist? I think it is important to make a distinction. True yoga, the highest yoga, goes deep AF. It really is a sacred practice with one hell of a high goal and very specific methodology. You already know this. No, I'm not a yoga snob. But there are things that are yoga and things that are not. And I don't think there's anything wrong with making that distinction.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.